Do you work your butt off, nurse, and still feel invisible to your boss? The problem isn't your effort, it's the way your brain presents your value. Right now, your mind might be running an old script that keeps you quiet, stuck, and underpaid. In this audio, I'm going to show you a simple set of NLP at work switches that make your boss finally notice you, without you becoming that annoying kiss-up. Before we dive in, I want you to do two things. First, mentally bring up that one situation where you felt totally ignored or overlooked at work. Hold that image in your mind. Second, when this audio ends, go to the comments and tell me two things: where you're listening from, and what's your biggest challenge with your boss right now, feeling ignored, underpaid, or stuck. Deal? Let me tell you a story. This is about Sarah. Real person, real situation. It's a Monday morning. The office hums with low conversations, keyboards tapping, and the faint buzz of the air conditioner. Sarah is at her desk, fingers wrapped around a paper cup of lukewarm coffee, eyes fixed on an email from her boss. Thanks. Mark. That's it. No great job, no this helped a lot, nothing, just thanks. The irony? Sarah is the one everyone runs to when things are on fire. She's the fixer. She's smart, responsible, the person who quietly stays late to clean up the mess no one else wants to touch. But in meetings, when the spotlight comes out, it's always the same three names getting praise, not hers. One afternoon, she walks past a conference room and hears her boss talking to another manager. Yeah, Mike's really stepping up as a leader. Mike, the guy who regularly asks Sarah how to do half his tasks. On the train home that night, Sarah puts in her earphones, but she doesn't really hear the podcast she chose. Her brain is louder than the audio. It keeps replaying one sentence on a loop. What else do I have to do to get noticed? Maybe you know that feeling. You give everything, but recognition, promotion, salary negotiation, and real workplace persuasion always seem to land on someone else's desk. Here's the twist. Sarah didn't change jobs. She didn't become a kiss-up. She didn't suddenly transform into a loud, extroverted show-off. Instead, she learned 4 specific influence tactics, drawn from Robert Cialdini's Science of Persuasion and Chris Voss's negotiation approach, combined with simple NLP language patterns for the workplace. By the end of this story, you'll know the one sentence that changed everything for her, and 4 ways to impress your boss without losing your self-respect. A few weeks later, it's performance review season. Fluorescent lights, the smell of coffee, and stress. Sarah sits across from her boss, Mark. He glances at the screen, then at her. Overall, you're doing fine. Reliable. Solid performer, he says. Okay. Is there anything I could be doing differently? She asks, trying to sound open, not desperate. Nothing major, just keep doing what you're doing. Fine. Solid. The most dangerous words in a career. Inside, she's screaming, I saved that client. I fixed that mess. I trained half this team. But on the outside, she forces a professional smile. Right. Sure. I'll keep at it. That day, Sarah made 3 silent negotiation mistakes. Chances are you've made them too. The first mistake was negotiating with effort instead of narrative. She believed, if I do a good job, they'll see it. That's a trap. Your boss doesn't experience your effort. They experience the story of your effort. No story, no perceived value. Sarah did the work, but she never framed it as a before and after. No clear impact on revenue, clients, or time saved. No future-focused language to make her look like a leader. Just quiet execution. The second mistake was waiting to be chosen instead of influencing. In that review, she let Mark lead everything. So, anything else? He asked. No, that's all from me, she answered. She gave the person with more formal authority total control of the conversation. She didn't use questions, labeling, or framing to steer it. She treated the review like a verdict, not a negotiation. The third mistake was trying so hard not to be a kiss-up that she became almost invisible. She said yes to everything. She never pushed back strategically. She avoided talking about her aspirations because it felt selfish. She confused being low drama with being low value. She walked out of that room with no promotion path, no clear goals, no conversation about a raise, nothing. That night, something shifted. Later, sitting at her kitchen table with a half-eaten dinner in front of her, she called a friend. Her shoulders slumped, her voice flat. "I don't want to be fake," Sarah said. "I just want to be respected." Her friend laughed softly, not at her, but with that "I've been there" kind of laugh. "You don't need to be fake," the friend said. "You need to be strategic." Her friend sent her two things: a short summary of Robert Cialdini's Persuasion principles, and a podcast episode with Chris Voss talking about tactical empathy in negotiation. Then she added a PDF with a few simple NLP at work tools: reframing, mirroring, and future pacing. Sarah sat there scrolling through it all and had a realization that hit her like cold water. Influence at work isn't about kissing up, she thought. It's about making it easy for my boss to see my value and to say yes when it matters, including in salary negotiation. She grabbed a notebook and started building a simple 4-step system. She called it the Boss Framework. 4 ways to impress your boss without being a kiss-up. B. Become their problem solver, not their people pleaser. O. Own your wins with storytelling, not bragging. S. Speak your boss's language using mirroring and labeling. S. Set the frame for growth with future-focused questions. Let's walk through how she used each part, so you can literally borrow the same words. The first step: become their problem solver, not their people pleaser. This started with an internal NLP reframe. Instead of thinking, "I need my boss to like me," she began to think, "My job is to quietly reduce their stress and solve the problems they care about most." The moment you shift that belief, your behavior changes. You stop begging for approval and start scanning for pain you can remove. Cialdini's principle of reciprocity and authority shows up here. When you consistently remove pain from someone's day, they feel a pull to reciprocate, and they start to see you as the go-to person, not just another employee number. Sarah asked herself 3 simple questions. What does Mark complain about? What tasks make him sigh? What keeps getting delayed? She noticed 3 patterns. Constant last-minute client escalations, reports that were always late and messy, and the team repeatedly missing deadlines because priorities weren't clear. Instead of asking, "How can I help?" which would force her boss to do more thinking, she designed small solutions and presented them ready to go. For example, she sent an email. "Hey Mark, I noticed client X tends to escalate when they don't get a weekly update. I can send them a short Friday summary with key progress and next steps so issues don't blow up. If you're okay with that, I'll start this week and keep you CC'd." Notice the structure. She names the problem, suggests a specific solution, and makes it easy for him to say yes. That's influence. That's workplace persuasion in action. She started using soft authority phrases. Here's what I suggest. I'd like to take ownership of. To make your life easier, I can. Those phrases are like embedded commands to your boss's brain. See me as someone who owns outcomes. The second step of the boss framework is own your wins with storytelling, not bragging. Sarah realized she was minimizing her achievements. If someone thanked her, she'd shrug and say, "Oh, it was nothing." That trains people to see your work as, well, nothing. So she used an NLP pattern, reframing with a simple before action after story. Instead of, "Yeah, I did the report," she started talking in tiny stories. In a one-on-one, she said, "You know that client who used to escalate every week? Before, they were sending angry emails every Friday and pulling you into emergency calls. I started sending them a short weekly update with clear next steps. Since then, we've had 0 escalations in 4 weeks and they renewed early." That's not bragging. That's data with a narrative. It's precise, simple, and it highlights impact. Fewer escalations, less stress, more revenue. To make this easy, she created a win log file. Every time something improved because of her actions, she wrote down 3 things: the problem, what she did, and the result in terms of time, money, risk, or relationships. This became her private database for performance reviews, salary negotiation, and any moment where she needed to demonstrate value. Over time, these stories create a consistency effect in your boss's mind. Every time you speak, you're showing a pattern. When you touch something, it gets better. The third step is speak your boss's language using mirroring and labeling. This is where Chris Voss's tactical empathy connects with NLP mirroring. Instead of staying quiet or giving one-word answers, Sarah started to listen for key phrases and emotions. In a one-on-one, Mark said, "Honestly, we're under a lot of pressure from leadership about deadlines." Sarah mirrored the key phrase. "A lot of pressure from leadership?" He nodded and opened up. "Yeah, especially on the Q4 launch. We can't afford delays." Now she knew. Q4 launch equals obsession. Then she used labeling. "Sounds like you're worried anything that delays Q4 will land directly on your desk." He exhaled a bit and said, "Exactly. That's pretty much it." That one sentence did three things. It showed she was listening. It showed she understood his fear, not just her own. And it positioned her as being on his side, not just another source of problems. From there she could say, "What if I quietly track the Q4 tasks for our team and flag anything that might slip before it becomes a problem? That way you see issues before leadership does." Again, problem solver, not people pleaser. This is pure workplace persuasion, making it feel safe and attractive for your boss to rely on you. The fourth and final step is set the frame for growth with future-focused questions. This is where NLP future pacing meets Cialdini's commitment and consistency. Instead of sitting there hoping to be noticed, Sarah started asking questions that pulled her into a bigger role in her boss's mind. In her next one-on-one after talking about projects, she said, "6 months from now, if you were to say Sarah has clearly grown into a higher level role, what specific things would I be doing differently?" Mark paused. He stared at the table for a second. No one had ever asked him that before. He said, "You'd be leading more cross-team projects, presenting more to leadership, and delegating some of your execution work." In that moment, a roadmap appeared. It wasn't vague anymore. It was specific. Cross-team projects, leadership presentations, delegation. She followed up. "Great. I'd like to work toward that. What's one project in the next month that I can take ownership of to move in that direction?" That question is subtle, but powerful. It makes him verbally commit to a vision of her at a higher level. It creates a standard he'll later feel consistent with. Whenever you're in salary negotiation or promotion talks, you can go back to that verbal contract. "You said that if I did X, Y, and Z, it would show I'm ready." So now Sarah had her boss plan. Become his problem solver. Own her wins with stories. Speak his language. Set the frame for growth. 2 days later, she walked back into his office for another one-on-one. Late afternoon. The office was quieter. Some people were already packing up. She felt her heart racing, but there was a calm under the nerves. Her win log was open on her laptop. Not as a weapon, but as a safety net. Mark started the conversation the way he always did. "So, how are things going?" Old Sarah would have said, "Fine," and waited for him to run the meeting. New Sarah had a plan. "Overall good," she said. "I'd like to talk about 2 things today. How the Q4 launch prep is going, and how I can formally grow into more responsibility over the next 6 months. Does that work for you?" He looked a little surprised, but he nodded. "Sure, let's start with Q4. She switched into problem solver mode. "You mentioned you're under a lot of pressure from leadership about deadlines. Over the last month, I've been tracking our team's Q4 tasks and flagging anything likely to slip. Because of that, we've avoided 2 potential delays, on the client rollout and the data handover. Before I stepped in, those were consistently late. Now they've been on time for 3 weeks." Then she stopped. She didn't rush to fill the silence. She let the numbers land. "Yeah, I've noticed things are smoother," he said. "Good work." Now she moved into growth and, indirectly, future salary negotiation territory. "Thank you," she replied. "A few weeks ago, you said that for me to grow into a higher level role, I'd need to lead more cross-team projects and present more to leadership. I've led the client rollout with the sales team, and I'm presenting the Q4 risk summary in next week's meeting. I'd like to talk about what a formal step-up could look like in the next review cycle." Notice what she's doing. She's not begging. She's aligning her request with his words. That's Cialdini's consistency working for her. He leaned back. "You have taken on more," he said. "What are you thinking?" She stayed calm. Based on the added scope and the impact on Q4, I'd like to discuss a move to next role title in the next review cycle, with compensation aligned to that level. What would you need to see from me between now and then to confidently support that? That question is pure power. It signals confidence and clarity. It opens a concrete path without sounding entitled. And it forces your boss to tell you the checklist. They talked specifics. He mentioned leading one more cross-team initiative, mentoring a junior colleague, and presenting twice in leadership meetings. They agreed on those milestones. He even said, "If you do those 3 things by the next review, I'm comfortable pushing for that promotion." When Sarah walked out of that office, nothing about her values had changed. She wasn't suddenly fake. She wasn't a kiss-up. She was a strategic influencer using workplace persuasion, NLP at work, and negotiation techniques on purpose. Within 3 months, she was leading a visible project. In the next review cycle, she moved into the higher role. Her raise wasn't a favor. It was a logical result of her impact, and more importantly, she felt respected. Now let's bring this back to you. Over the next 7 days, I want you to take 2 simple actions. First, start your own win log. At the end of each workday, write down one situation where you made something better. Just one. Write it as a 3-part sentence. Before, action, after. For example, before, the weekly report was always late and confusing. I simplified the template and created a checklist. After that, reports have been on time for 3 weeks and our manager stopped chasing us. At the end of the week, pick 1 or 2 of those wins to naturally mention in a conversation with your boss. Second, ask one future-focused question in your next one-on-one. It can be this exact sentence. If 6 months from now you were to say, "I've clearly grown into a higher-level role, what would I be doing differently?" Then stop talking. Let them think. Capture their answer. That becomes your roadmap for growth, promotion, and eventually salary negotiation. You don't need to flatter your boss. You don't need to play office politics. You do need a strategy for how your boss's brain sees you. So remember the boss framework. B. Become their problem solver, not their people pleaser. O. Own your wins with storytelling, not bragging. S. Speak your boss's language with mirroring and labeling. S. Set the frame for growth with future-focused questions. Next time you walk into that one-on-one, you won't be hoping to be noticed. You'll have your wins in story form. You'll know your boss's real headaches, and you'll know exactly what question to ask to open the door to your next level. Now I want to hear from you. Where are you listening from, and what's your biggest challenge with your boss right now? Feeling ignored, underpaid, overlooked for promotion, or something else? Go to the comments and put it into words. Naming the problem is the first step to changing it, and your answer might become the inspiration for a future episode. And if you want more weekly tactics on workplace persuasion, NLP at work, and how to navigate salary negotiation and power dynamics with confidence instead of fear, make sure you follow and subscribe so you don't miss the next audio.